as I've been posting more online, I get these comments where, my video was like something really short and it offered a tip, some type of insight, motivation of some kind, and they'll come in and they'll say, this doesn't work for everybody. And what's really interesting is that these moments of being triggered are incredibly opportune. It provides this opportunity to love yourself even more deeply. But what happens is, because the trigger in of itself is a painful experience, and we try to avoid pain, we're both trying to avoid the experience of having the trigger. But then we're also externalizing that and pushing away the other person or the thing that we felt triggered us. But the thing is, a trigger can't occur unless there's something already inside of us that feels ashamed about something, feels like we should be doing something we don't see ourselves doing, has some sort of internalized belief of some kind, and that this other thing just like hits upon that, right? Like, when I see that now for my own self, I realize that this is an amazing moment to get curious, to see what's going on for myself. And then see myself show up to that experience with deeper levels of love and care, understanding, acceptance. So it was just something I was noticing as I was posting things and then getting these responses of like, this doesn't apply. Because the thing is too, like when someone does that, they are both feeling the trigger, pushing against it, resisting it, and then taking their time to both say that like this thing doesn't apply to me, and then also hear some of my own story about why it doesn't. And when you look at that, you can really see that the person is deeply desiring understanding and acceptance. But in that moment, what they're really needing is the understanding from themselves. Like this random stranger on the internet, of course can't know you. They haven't even met you. You've only heard from them. And just like a short snippet of something they were thinking that day. Like, when you look at it like that, you can really only see that they are talking to themselves. They're wanting that understanding from themselves. They're wanting that acceptance from themselves. They're wanting that deeper attunement from themselves. And so, like, next time that occurs, just maybe think about it a little bit differently. Like, yeah, this thing I don't agree with, or this thing triggered some sort of feeling, but that's beautiful, that's powerful, because then I can show up to it. And you can look at basically all of life as this principle too of when anything comes up, this is an opportunity to love myself deeper. And that doesn't mean that I don't actually address the thing in front of me, right? Like, me loving myself in action, in showing up, in setting a boundary, and having a conversation, in staying consistent when I need to do that for whatever reason. Like, all of that is loving myself. But what's interesting is that I feel like we have this sort of disciplinarian in our mind, and we feel like we have to go to that to create any kind of change. I've just really found more sustainable change, at least for me personally, when I show up not as I'm going to force myself to do something. I will show up to the challenge. I will show up when I don't want to, but it's because I'm loving myself more deeply by showing myself that I can, by creating a life that actually supports me. And take what works for you. I mean, similar to how I started in this beginning, like if someone triggers you, that's an opportunity for you to show up for you. And also, it's an opportunity for you to be standing in your sovereignty, right? For you to be able to decide and discern what is for me, including advice people give, including things people say. Like, you can take this or not. You can completely disagree with this, and that's perfect for you. And I think what's cool about doing that with someone who's actually like putting my thoughts online is that goes both ways, where if someone doesn't agree with me, I don't have to take that personally. I'm like, cool, that wasn't for you. I know what works for me, and I share what works for me, and I share things that I know, but like, it's okay if it doesn't work for everybody, and it's not going to, you're not going to be for everybody. I'm not going to be for everybody. I might not be for you. That's okay. And what's really cool about when you practice that level of acceptance for your own self, you know, like you're really developing like a powerful present relationship with yourself and loving relationship with yourself, one where you're honest and vulnerable while also being accepting, then then that shows up in all sorts of ways, right? Then you can be that for other people too. If they're rejecting something about me, okay. Because I've done the work to not be the one that rejects myself, right? I'm the one that accepts me. I'm the one that loves me. I'm the one that shows up unconditionally, you know? And that doesn't mean I don't grow. That actually means I grow more. So, yeah. And I get too that there's a lot in life that is disempowering, right? Like whole systems that are built to enslave us to other people's agendas. And, you know, that element of, like, we're just kind of drawn into being complicit into terrible things. Like, you know, I'm holding an iPhone. It's a smartphone. It's a piece of technology that likely had its parts mined by a child in another country. Like all these crazy things happening. And I feel like too, the sense of people getting triggered, or even our own selves getting triggered, that sometimes it can be like a little signpost of like an underlying sense of feeling disempowered. And again, it kind of, to me at least, it brings it back around to the importance of being present with myself. Like being present when that occurs. Because the more I feel disempowered, then I'm not going to show up to any kind of change, whether that be in my own life or in the world at large, right? Like, it doesn't serve the greater good of myself or anyone to be in a state of disempowerment. And so allowing the trigger to show to me what is actually happening. Now, where am I actually at? What is maybe like a subtle feeling that I'm having, or subtle belief that I'm holding underneath it all? Because even in of itself, awareness is like 50% of empowerment. It's a lot. Awareness is like a really big step in empowerment. When I become more aware, I can do something about it. Even Carl Jung said something about, you know, until you make the unconscious conscious, those things will drive you or something, when you'll call it fate, something like that. So awareness being a huge thing, and that only happens when we're willing to get present. We're willing to slow down when we want to avoid. Slow down and get curious. Curiosity is key. Curious from a place of, I'm going to hold myself in this, and I can be the space that holds whatever this is. I can allow myself to feel whatever this emotion is. I can allow myself to see if there's a belief here. I can allow myself to acknowledge where maybe I am being impacted by larger things outside of my control. But then what is within my control, right? What is your locus of control? But you can't really even have these conversations when we just kind of like let ourselves get run wild by triggers and moved toward avoidance. Yeah, right? I can't even have that conversation with myself. I'm like, what's within my control? What's outside my control? When I'm so avoiding it, I'm not even showing up to that possibility of that conversation. My little thoughts along my walk. Let me know what you think, right? What's been your experience with showing up to when you feel triggered? What has helped you in those moments? Does any of what I say make sense to you? It makes sense to me in my own head. But you know, I always like to get better and hear what people have to say from my foundation of sovereignty and knowing that I can discern what's right for me, right? So yeah, let me know.